LightHawk volunteer pilot Greg Bedinger has witnessed border changes for years, flying over southeast Arizona and northern Mexico.
I grew up in an aviation family. We had a small plane as a second car, living in Alaska. That's how people got around back then. And I just have always had a lifelong fascination with, actually as much of the fascination has been with looking out the window as it has been with flying. The flying came many years later.
Greg routinely flies over the border in Arizona to document how wall construction is changing the landscape. Up close, the border's impact is shocking and immediate. From further away, the border is somehow even stranger and begs the question, why have we split a single landscape in two? Blocking movement through North America in a variety of ways.
When you're on the ground, depending on where you are, if you're standing close to the new wall, the 30-footer, it's pretty imposing. Where it's dropped down to the lower sections that were built, prior to 2 or 3 years ago, that too kind of leaves an impression of unscalability. But from the air, unless you're really looking for that transition from height, it's hard to judge scale sometimes unless you have, a car or a truck, heavy equipment, or where it runs through towns. Until you have that from the air, it can look quite small and tiny and silly. It's hard not to come away with a feeling of why would they spend that kind of money on this barrier that really, for all practical purposes, just doesn't really accomplish what they're after.
In the final years of the Trump administration, environmental laws were waived along the border, and wall construction happened quickly across federal lands in Arizona. When the wall construction was paused in January 2021, approximately 2/3 of Arizona's border with Sonora was already blocked off. There are now only a few places where the wall hasn't split the landscape in two.
That's what flying is all about, is just being witness to all that.
LightHawk mobilizes volunteer pilots like Greg to help conservation organizations monitor the landscape and tell the stories of both environmental degradation and conservation.
Really, the goal, the mission is to utilize the power of these aerial views to advance, conservation efforts for groups like yours.
Greg's aerial reconnaissance is helping Sky Island Alliance and its partners identify and advocate for restoration of land damaged by the wall, including construction staging areas and water crossings.
These areas were staging areas for sections of wall, sections of the old border walls that had been removed, staging of construction materials like, the environmental barriers, the concrete barriers, light standards, trucks, heavy equipment, all of that. One of the things that I've tried to capture for all of the wall is where the wall just flat out interrupts water drainage across the border. A lot of areas they've made accommodation for it that may or may not be working. Other areas the wall just goes down into a draw, down into a wash, and continues on as though it was never there. It just seems like folly and ill-spent money. If all they did was build a road and patrol it heavily, put some sensors and things along the way, and maybe use some drones, they could probably do away with the wall and wildlife wouldn't know anything was going on. My dream would be to see the wall removed, And, we've got the technology and the wherewithal to do better than, a physical border wall. If everything looked like the San Rafael or the reservation lands, I think that would be a good goal.